Welcome back to the Artist Forge Live. My name is Nicole York. I'm going to be your host. I'm a minor disaster. Welcome to the party. Today we have with us your other incredible Artist Forge founding members, hosts, moderators, and all-around badasses, Matt Stagliano and Becca Bjorky and Kat Ford Coates and Bassam Saba. Welcome, guys, to the first live stream of the month.
Hello, everyone.
Here. Olga is here already. Facebook friends, YouTube
Eager
friends.
Olga.
If y'all are here, say hi. Let us know you're here today. So
I'm just going to pour myself a little bit more of this Apothic Red, right? Just in case they wanted to sponsor anything. We're putting it to good use. Just saying.
Indeed.
We're consumers of the product.
We are.
Are you paying attention to that?
I'm good.
Eager.
Is everybody boozy today? I feel like everybody's boozy today.
Today's a boozy day.
Very boozy.
Pouring here.
Tea. Just a reminder to our friends in the audience, if you are in Facebook land and you have not given StreamYard permission, but you would like us to be able to see your name when we share your comments like these, you have to give StreamYard permission for that. So sometimes we are monitoring and we can tell who is there, but it's always handy to be able to see your name and say hi to you because we love you guys. How is everybody in the audience today? If you guys are hanging out, let us know in the comments how you're doing today. So we were having, so it looks like we had, so that was Stacy and Michael, Stacy McNaughton and Michael Gonzalez. So, hey, y'all.
Hey, guys.
Okay, so we've had some interesting conversations this week. I know Kat has been traveling, so she hasn't been able to be there for everything, but has anything stuck in your mind this week? Anything particular? We've had some relatively esoteric conversations, I feel like, so far.
Yeah, I thought the one on neurodivergent thinking really got me thinking. But I think the entire week, today's conversation about saying no and just basically, we never really got to any solutions or tools or tips. It was really just commiserating. And quite honestly, it felt pretty good to understand myself a little bit better about when I say no and when I don't and the reasons why. And I think, the big thing for me was peeling back the layers a little bit and actually thinking like, wow, I guess I don't say no a lot. I guess I don't set the right boundaries. And then I wonder why I'm in sometimes the mess that I'm in. So being able to understand all of that and just hear from other people that, oh yeah, that happens on their side too. I was pretty stoked. So it was a really good conversation. I can't wait to see if that continues tomorrow.
Yeah, I was really bummed, but I was like, neurodivergence, come on! I was so bummed, but hopefully we can circle back, just for to appease my own my own wanting to be included in that conversation. But otherwise, we've had some killer conversations this week.
I think we have to circle back around to that one. I think it would be really great if we could snag a professional and bring them on and just chat them up and ask them questions and see what their experiences and thoughts are on there. Because even just according to that, I did link that paper in the group. According to that paper, they were looking at, self-reported, and it looked like, and this is a British paper, that it was essentially saying that 20% of people in the creative field reported neurodivergence, and that is 50% more representation than in other fields. And I was like, well, that's
that makes
not
sense.
Surprising at all.
That tracks.
That tracks.
Yeah, so I was also away, I think 3 days this week, but I did listen to the replays every day. And really enjoyed the conversations. But before I talk about that, I just want to, for the record, I just want to say I do bring back my cart every single time. Okay? Because my vote has to be in there. Yes.
Hanging me out there to dry, man. Hanging me out
Yeah,
there.
Matt,
You
you're
know,
fired. You're out.
Right.
You're gone. Deuces, son.
you know
So as
what?
much-
I am a real person. You angels that sit on high. I know for a fact there's been a cart or two where you just look around, you're like, there's no one here. Fuck it. And you
No,
take off.
Matt.
Now,
No,
No.
you are on
No.
your own there, bruh.
No,
right.
no.
I'm a party of one. Doesn't matter.
So
Party of
That-
one.
I want to know who is in the audience today. Have you ever just left your cart? Have you done it? You can't leave Matt hanging all by himself.
Come on.
he
Oh,
needs
yes,
a,
you
he
can.
needs a friend.
Yes, you can. Out to
So-
dry.
So while
Holier
we're
than
doing
now,
that,
all of you.
while we're doing that, as much as I enjoyed today's conversation about saying no, was it today?
Yeah.
I can't remember because I joined today. Yes. The conversation we had about luck was kind of timely, and I really enjoyed it. And I say timely because I was driving about 6 hours to get to where I was going this week. And on the way, I was listening for the first time ever to that podcast. I'm sure all of you know it. How I Built It.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever heard about the podcast How I Built It?
Yeah, it's
No.
great.
No.
Have you? Yeah. Well, basically, it's a podcast where a Guy Raz, interviews very famous, successful business people, and they talk about how they made it, how they built their company. I just listened to Squarespace and Canva and all the, they're all multi-billionaires today. Anyways, the whole point of it is that at the end of each interview, he asks the question, same question: how much of your success do you attribute to your skills, your hard work, and your effort versus luck? Right? So that was on Sunday, and then on Monday or Tuesday, you guys talked about luck. So I thought it was time. It was very interesting, and what they all tend to have a very similar answer to that question, and they say, well, I consider myself lucky on things in a way that I didn't have control over. So I'm lucky I was born in the United States. I'm lucky I was born into a family that was, that stayed together. I'm lucky that we never had to worry about money and I had the opportunity. I'm lucky my parents had a computer in the house. This is back in the 80s or early, late 80s. So they always talked about things that they don't control that they were lucky about. But then they say everything else I don't consider luck. It's hard work. It's repetition. It's over and over and over and over. So I thought that was interesting that it was a consistent answer among all of them.
Yeah, I would be curious to know. So for friends in the audience, if you didn't get to join us for that conversation, we talked about luck and how that plays into our success as artists, as business people, where we actually see first what we consider luck to mean, but second, just trying to find out, even looking back in our past, are there things there that we would consider luck that helped us get to where we're at? And everybody had a little bit of a different answer. And I think what we kind of landed on was there's no real way to know what percentage of your success luck might be. We know it plays a role, but we also know that your chances of having luck work in your favor are vastly improved when you are super prepared and when you continue to show up over and over again consistently. And depending on what your attitude is, right? If you have a great attitude about stuff, then you're more likely to see opportunities instead of roadblocks that contribute to success. And it felt like that was where we kind of landed. Do you guys feel like that was where it ended up?
Actually, I kind of summarized it because I summarized it into 4 different, definitions of luck that we ended up talking about. And that's my own analysis, by the way. It's not, But the interesting thing is that I only see 2 of the 4 as real luck, whereas the rest are something else, right? So the first one is, that what we call divine intervention. Right? That's pure luck. I mean, a good example, you're golfing with a friend and lightning hits and your friend gets hit, but you don't. You're pretty damn lucky. All right. And that's divine intervention, right? The second kind of luck was related to randomness, right? Like probabilities and possibilities. It's the example that Kat gave, where she had to pick there's a lottery to get tickets to something, and you were lucky and you picked first. You could have gotten the last one like your friend did. Right. So that's like throwing a pair of dice and saying, I want to get double 6s on the first try. There's 36 chances. And, You get it on the first try, that's luck, but that's randomness. And that's kind of I would define that as being lucky. The third one is kind of in between, and that's related to trial and error, right? So that's what we do as artists or whatever, where we keep trying and trying and trying and repeating and building and creating. And eventually we get pretty consistent at it. And people say, hey, you're pretty lucky to be able to do it. Whereas we know that it really has nothing to do with luck. Maybe if our first piece or our first photo was sold for $1 million, maybe that's luck, right? But in essence, it's really about repetition. So I'm not sure there's luck there. And the last one was what I don't call luck. I would call it circumstance, which is the Becca's example of being at the bar at the right time, the right place, having the right conversation, being in the right mood, and having the right presence to be able to talk to this guy and offer you a job. And this is where I really don't see any luck there. I think it's pure circumstance, and you, because you put yourself out there, you've built relationships, you've networked. This is the example of putting yourself out there. And then we end up saying, well, had I not had that luck, had I not been that lucky, I wouldn't be with my husband or my wife or where I am today. But in reality, maybe you wouldn't be, right? But maybe the next set of circumstance would have happened, and you'd be with somebody, and you'd be somewhere, and you'd be saying the same thing about that, event that happened in your life. So to me, that's not luck, that's circumstance. And that could be, you have better chances of getting lucky because you're putting yourself out there and you're networking and so on. Anyways, that's kind of the summary of what I saw on that day.
When we're talking about luck and circumstance, right, I think it's also important to note the privilege aspect as well, and noting the privilege you have to be even in the room in the first place to experience the circumstances that allow you to take advantage of certain things. And that is something that I was thinking about pretty hardcore actually throughout the week following that call was, okay, how much of that is privilege and how much of that is luck and how much of that is simply just being allowed to be in the room in the first place. And I mean, that's obviously a topic for a whole other day, but I definitely wanted to note it on the call, especially since we're, addressing luck as a topic and things like that. But understanding that luck has this teensy tiny little bit to do with things, but I think privilege has a lot to do with it. Even, as a broke girl in Boston, working my dick off, at the end of the day.
Is that where it went?
That's definitely where mine was. And understanding that even all of the work that it took me to get to that space to be able to take advantage of those circumstances was still coming from a place of I had the privilege to be in that space to work in such a way to make that happen. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that was noted and understood moving forward.
For
Yeah,
sure.
and I like that. And I think the word privilege, could be, I'm lucky enough to have met somebody who brought me there, right? So in a way, it's never black and white, right? It's gray really, what luck is and what it isn't.
For sure. And I think I'm really glad that you brought that up, Kat, because it's interesting. Sometimes I think we make the mistake of thinking that when somebody says you had the privilege of that circumstance, what they're saying is you didn't have to work or you didn't have any struggles or anything like that, which is bullcrap, right? Really what all that means is that you got lucky in a certain area, and that doesn't say that you didn't struggle or you didn't have to work hard or there weren't difficulties for you to overcome or anything like that. It just means in this specific spot, I was born into a family where my parents stayed together. I had no control over that. That was pretty lucky set of circumstances. And there are certain privileges that kids who have parents who stay together tend to have. We have a sense of long-term security and some other things that are beneficial to us that we didn't work hard for those circumstances. They just happened to be that way. If you grew up in a family where the home was full of books, you also had that privilege. That's a set of, circumstances you didn't do anything about, and you're going to benefit from that your whole life. That doesn't mean we didn't still work really damn hard to get where we're at and that we didn't overcome those struggles. But I think it is important, just for the sake of equity, to recognize that there are times where we're going to benefit from things that we had no control over.
Word.
Sorry, I just heard a beepy button, and I'm not sure what's happening.
There's some clicking happening, Nicole. And I think
Yeah, I hear it.
Do you hear it when I'm muted?
What's happening is your microphone is scraping against the zipper on your hoodie.
Right.
You have a choice of unzipping or zipping further.
Like, is this
Zip
is this what it
or
is?
not zip?
Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
what it is.
Okay.
There we go.
Who's the audio
There we
guy?
go.
I'm the audio guy.
Lola's here. Lola's
I fixed it. All right. So we haven't got an answer yet. And I'm really wondering from our friends in the audience today, how do you think luck has played a part in your career as an artist? Do you think it has? Do you think it hasn't? And for me, I think when I think of luck, I think of sometimes that circumstantial stuff that you mentioned, Bassam, like maybe I submitted to a contest 10 times. And I failed 9 times. And the 10th time, somebody happened to be on the panel who happened to see my work the way that I hoped somebody would, right? And that may be circumstantial, but it may sure turn out lucky for me if it happens to go in my favor, right? And those are the things we don't have any control over. So in my mind, I think that's where that luck comes from, because nothing I do could have contributed to that outcome aside from what I can control, which is continue to make the good work and submit the good work.
Yeah, I think that's where I landed on it too, is that I have a really hard time with luck. And I know I said some things in the call where, I feel pretty lucky that certain things happen to me, but again, that's all kind of circumstantial. I just have a really hard time with the notion of luck itself, without going into all sorts of weird woo-woo stuff. I think it's just, for me, any opportunity that's been presented has been hard work, put yourself in the places, like Kat said, put yourself in the room. What gets you into that room can be a myriad of things. I just don't think it's luck, right? So, you submitting all of these things on the 10th time you finally get there, it's not luck that someone was there. It's playing the odds. It's consequences, right? It's bound to happen that there will eventually be a judge, whether it's the 10th time or the 100th time, but there's a set of odds there and you're playing them over and over and over, and you're going to win eventually. And I just think that's part of this, is that it's not necessarily luck. It's just continuing to put that effort in over and over and over. And it does pay off, sometimes sooner, sometimes later, but it eventually does.
Right. But it's a bit more than odds, Matt. I totally agree with you. I mean, it is odds because, the more you do it, the more chances are. But it's a bit more than that, because you actually have control over it. You can actually get better at networking. You can actually get better at which event do I go to, right? You may still not meet that person, but you're maximizing your chances, right? Which is the difference between that and basically just randomly rolling a dice, because you really don't have control over that, right? So that's where I see the difference of where it's not pure, anyways.
Yes to chaos, Olga. Yes.
I think what makes it so hard is that so much of it is going to depend on what your definition of luck is, Right. And for me, it just boils down to the things I didn't have control over. And when those things happen to align in my favor, I consider that, well, that's not fair. I might consider it, I might not consider it luck. I might consider it providence. But either way, it's a thing I could not have done for myself. I don't have control over who's on a panel. I don't have control over who shows up to the networking events and what kind of day they had. Maybe the right person shows up and they had a shitty day and they just don't want to talk to me. All of that stuff, all of the circumstantial stuff, I don't have any control over that. And so in my mind, the things I don't have control over fall into the realm of luck. And since we never know how big of a role that's going to play in the outcome, then I think all we have to do is really just focus on what we do. I mean, that's really all that's left for us, right? Is to go, well, how do I contribute to the situation?
Yeah. And actually the Oxford, I'm just reading the Oxford simple definition of luck is success or failure apparently brought by chance rather than through one's own actions.
Right.
Right.
Right. And so, I mean, we're always contributing to the outcome, but how much? I mean, that's the question. Are we contributing more or less? Or if the right person happens to be there at the right time, were we contributing more that time or the same amount? And it just happened to be the other side of the equation that got filled there. I think the reason I wanted to talk about this was because I did want to demystify a little bit the fact that sometimes it can feel like the people we admired, they're just better than us for some reason, more talented, more skilled, better at talking to people, just better. And so in a way we can kind of be like, well, I mean, of course they're better than me. And it feels like adding a crutch where I can go, well, I guess I didn't have to try as hard because like I'm never going to get there. But if we acknowledge that luck plays some role, then it's like, well, hell, what makes them any more luckier than me? If there's some aspect of chance that comes into play here, then I'm as likely to end up with that good chance as anybody else. So I'll roll the dice too. I mean, and so I guess for me, it feels a little more hopeful than saying, in order to make it, I just have to outwork everybody else, because that's not gonna happen. I'll work really hard, but I got limits too, man.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing because I know certainly I've seen certain folks and been like, man, they're really lucky, or I'm never going to be that good, right? And it's this whole comparison thing, and we know that's not a good thing to have, but certainly, I mean, it's happened in the past. But yeah, there's nothing, to quote you, Nicole, more luckier on their side than than anything that I have. So it's just an interesting way to look at it, right? Just when you understand the game a little bit more, you realize that there's not a whole lot of luck involved. There's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of circumstance. There's a lot of playing the game, playing the odds. But
well, and there's a lot of opportunity that you're able to take advantage of.
Exactly. You have to be able to see the opportunity and be prepared for that, right?
Right. Like you were saying.
Well, and you have to be allowed a seat at the table too.
Well, and Matt was saying on the call, like where preparation meets opportunity. Like that's very true. If I'm not in a position to have a folio that's good enough or skills that are prepared enough, when Vogue rolls in and needs a photographer for XYZ, I'm not in a position to take advantage of that, even if it's presented to me. When I think it was 2015. Yeah, Blue Country was still open. So it was 2015. And a company reached out to me about renting a studio space for a commercial gig. And my studio at the time, like the name of my business at the time was Studio 828. And 828 is the area code that I live in. So SEO wise, photo studio in Asheville was like #1 on all things. And they reached out to me and were like, hey, like we need a photo studio, commercial gig, rah, 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 rah. And I was not in a position to be like, hell yeah, come into my 8x16 space with your giant team and 47 photographers. Like that wasn't a thing. But what I did was, okay, this is an opportunity. So what I went through and I was like, okay, who has spaces in my area? Who has spaces in Asheville that will rent out their studio for this kind of a thing, and sent them options? Well, then that turned into, would you like to work as a second PA on the shoot? Now, forget it. Like my work was garbage. I didn't know what I was doing and I was hoping for the best and rah, rah, rah. But because I had taken action on their needs, I was given an opportunity to work on this commercial gig to with a world-class photographer and a huge team and understanding a side of the business that I didn't know anything about. That was terrific. And I still had an 8x16 space, right? My work wasn't good enough, but because I took action on being able to help them source a solution for their problem, I was able to take advantage of that and better my own skill set. But had I not been prepared to even be resourceful for their needs, that never would have happened, ever in a million years. And it was purely on luck that I happened to name my studio X, Y, and Z. So yes, being prepared is a requirement for being able to take advantage of opportunity, but also being resourceful in a moment to be able to take advantage of that opportunity is a thing.
Yeah, and not just resourceful, of service, because you could be resourceful and say, hey, I want nothing to do with them, but you wanted to serve them, right? You're generous, basically. So your generosity led to, right?
Well, and that's
Yes,
interesting
you're
too,
all
because you're all welcome. That's interesting too, because like, as you mentioned, the choice of the studio name, they also could have looked beyond your studio, right? Like they could have scrolled, 5 things down and clicked on that person, or the people that were working that day could have been like, well, that's nice of her. Let's go on with our business, instead of saying, well, let's, bring her on for this. Like, so if everything wasn't working in concert, the result wouldn't have been the same. And here, like Kat is doing her part, and that's all we can do. We can't guarantee that the other people are going to be receptive. We can't guarantee that they're going to pick us or respond well or whatever it is. But like, since we don't have control over that part of it, maybe it's not worth worrying about, except to go, I could be lucky too. Like somebody else, I will put in the hard work, and you never know. Sharon
well,
said,
the name of the game is always be in service.
Be
Always.
prepared, have the right attitude, be resourceful, for sure. All right, as we start to get close to the half hour where we will begin looking at some of the beautiful images that were submitted for last month's challenge. There were so many gorgeous images. We couldn't let it go. We wanted to make sure that we came back and addressed some of that beauty that we didn't get to talk about at the last live stream of March. So we're going to look at them this April and enjoy them all together. But in the meantime, if you are here with us today and you haven't said hi in the comments, what's wrong with you? We want to know that you're here. We want to hang out with you. Say something. And if you have any thoughts on how luck, or if luck, has impacted your career, or is it all just hard work? Share your thoughts. We want to hear what you have to say. So we have several gorgeous images today, all very super different. And I cannot wait to grab some of them. Let me make sure that I've got everything opened up down here. In the meantime, has anybody been working on the April challenge? I know Bassam has shared some work on the theme. Has anybody else been working on it? Have you guys been thinking about it? Friends in the audience, have you been doing anything with the theme of love for April?
I've got a self-portrait in mind that I've been piecing together. It's just a matter of getting into the studio and doing it. And I will just say it's it's inspired by Becca, and I'm going to leave it at that. At which point her eyes did exactly what I thought they would do. Yep. So I'll let you in on it in a little bit, Becca, so that you're not concerned.
Does Josh need to be worried, or are you a threat?
Not in the least. Not in the least. Nope. It would be exhausting to get to where you are anyway. It's just I don't have the energy.
Matt's just too
But yeah, so, but yeah, I've been thinking about it. So in the works.
And self-portrait challenge, I'm calling you out.
Mm-hmm. Nope. So the reason I haven't been in the studio a whole lot is because it's been cold, in Maine. Happens
Because
that
it's
way.
Maine.
Because it's Maine. It almost snowed today. So
Almost.
to keep the heating costs down, I moved back here to the home studio. And now that the weather started to kick back up, I'm back in. So that means creation can start again. And I'm all excited about it. So rebirth happening, all sorts of new stuff coming.
Let's go with that. Let's go with that, Barry. Olga says she's trying to think of a concept, but it's tough. And of course, Sharon saying she can't wait to see what Matt is going to create. Me too.
Tough love would be a good subject. Tough love.
Yeah. It's tough love. There's unrequited love. There's passionate love. There's motherly love. There's brotherly love.
Unrequited or unrequited?
Unrequited.
Okay. Just check.
Yeah. Although unrequired would be a really interesting concept to go.
That's a whole lot of self-confidence right there.
I don't need your love.
I thought it would be tough too, but it was done before April even started. Look at that. See? Moving forward. All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and start having a look at some of the beautiful images from last month's challenge. I'm going to pull up our first one. Remember, if you're in the audience today, this is the visual literacy section of the live stream. I'm fine. Meaning, we are going to look at some images that were submitted to the Artist Forge Facebook group. We are going to first just look at them for a few seconds, allow them to make us feel something, and then, based on what we feel, we're going to start using our visual literacy skills to ask ourselves, what did the artist do? How did they compose this image? What palette did they choose? What is the expression and body language and composition and all of that stuff? How are those artistic choices contributing to the way that this image is making us feel? And this is really important to get your feedback in the comments. So be prepared to start telling us how these images make you feel. We are going to begin with a beautiful shot by the lovely Jay Coy. And here we go.
Nicole, do we have any context? Is there a title to this?
There is not. Friends in the audience, if you know how this one is making you feel, start sharing that in the comments section. I can't decide if this is making me feel pain or passion or both at the same time.
Exactly it. I'm trying to look at it from different directions to see how it hits me, and feeling the same exact things, Nicole.
It's pain. It's
That's
pain for me.
interesting.
It's pain for me. I don't see passion
It's not either for me.
or sorrow or sadness.
It's exertion.
I'm on the sadness pain team. I'm not getting passion at all for this. It feels weepy.
Team sadness.
Team sadness. Oh. Too much wine for team sadness.
I think something that, I mean, I can't tell if it's the color. I have a hard time disassociating red from passion. And with the movement in there and the pain. Now remember, passion doesn't have to mean love, right? Passion just means a deep emotional drive to a thing. And so, which is why they call Passion Week, the Passion of the Christ, right? Like passion does not have to mean pain.
Oh,
So,
I disagree wholeheartedly.
On the definition,
Passion means to suffer.
right?
That does not. Ugh.
No, say the
Passion
thing.
means to suffer.
Yes, but the suffering in the, are you suffering for love? Are you suffering for like
Or are you
from
simply
desire? Are you
suffering?
suffering? I don't know if I would say I'm feeling passion if it's simple suffering.
I mean, is there anything simple about suffrage? Like,
So I think suffering from, let's say, an unrequited love or the loss of a loved one is not the same as suffering because I broke my ankle and I can't go snowboarding this summer or this winter. I mean, both are suffering, but they're very different, right? Like,
the definition of suffering is the state of undergoing pain, distress, or hardship.
sure. And then we've got some other ones that Olga just shared them right as you were sharing that too. A strong and barely controllable emotion, a man of impetuous passion, the suffering and death of Jesus. So that's mentioning the kind of the definition that was in my head. So I think depending on so I learned this about myself over the last week. I am a figurative language user. And when I speak to people who are literal language users, we tend to be saying the same thing and going like this, even though we don't necessarily mean something different. I learned this because Kate's husband, Kyle, is a engineer. And so we were having these discussions and I'm using language very figuratively and he's using it very literally. And we had to stop and be like, are we actually saying the same thing here? We were at that time, but yeah.
Okay, are we allowed to talk? Are
Yes,
we allowed to discuss the structure of the image yet?
Yeah, I mean, as long so Becca, Bassam, Matt, have you guys come do you have a solid idea for how this one makes you feel?
Yeah,
I'm leaning more.
For me, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I'm leaning more towards pain, anguish, that side of things than necessarily like, oh, this is lovely grass. I love being here.
I'm not just leaning there. That to me, it is sadness, anguish, and so on. And the actual red dress is irrelevant to the emotion. The red dress has more to do with what happened. Like, where was she? What was the occasion? What was the occasion that she is no longer in now? She is in anguish. She is in pain, right? So I don't see the red as relevant to the specific emotion. I see it more as a what happened one frame before and where was she.
That's interesting, Bassam, because I mean, thinking of if there's a woman in an incredible red dress, I think it creates it implies a certain level of emotion in her already, and maybe there is this kind of contrast between that moment before that you're mentioning. Like, how does this
it is that yeah, exactly, contrast. It's like,
I can see that.
Like she doesn't deserve to be where she is today. Something happened that kind of flipped it 180 degrees, right?
Interesting.
I just see all of this emotion flowing out of her.
Yeah, totally. The shape there's beautiful.
Yeah, it reminds me of a flower.
But
yeah, that's why I was turning my head sideways, very tulip, But
she's also still moving, right? Her hair it looks like her hair is still so she's in motion right now. She just hit the ground, right? As opposed to she's sitting there and dwelling on it or thinking about it or whatever, right?
A flower.
There's motion there in the leaves as well. But yeah, it definitely does feel like she just hit the ground, not like she's been sitting there for a while, particularly in the shape of the dress and how that is laid out.
And I think also in the way her muscles are contracted in her back.
That's what I was looking at. There's a definite tension there, right? The other thing that I really liked about this was the use of the bright leaves to keep bringing. I mean, for me, they keep bringing me away and breaking me out of this like this feeling of being so wrapped into this passion or this sadness or whatever it is. And I keep coming out of the image looking at the leaves. I don't know if it's distracting or enhancing, but there's the little light leaks as well. Maybe it's my monitor, maybe that's actually the way it is, but these little light leaks, these streaks of yellow
These
that
are these are leaves that are blowing.
leaves that are
These
blowing.
here?
Okay, so there is a
Yep,
little bit
yeah.
of motion there with the dress and the
Right.
hair and all that. Yeah, I think I really like that sense of, you know, her leaning into this whatever wind is blowing things that way, and she's just kind of like whatever pain is coming that way, she's leaning into it. It's a really interesting use of the leaves in a really, really subtle way that I enjoy quite a bit in this.
It does feel like, I like that you guys mentioned, it almost feels like the pain is leaking out of her, and the spillage of the dress is very much feels like blood in a way. I mean, it's really flowing from her. And I also like the fact, and I'm not sure if I've decided what this means for me yet or not, but I also like the fact that her upper body is at a right angle to the motion of the dress. So there's a kind of a tension, you know, that's happening there between what's happening with the dress and what's happening with her body, aside from like all the tension that's in her body language and the muscles that we can see contracted there. But
I think Sharon,
I appreciate the angling. Like, I do like that right angle piece. Her hand is what's getting me.
I think Sharon
and I
said it
almost
well.
wish,
I thought
like,
you were
if we're
finished, so-
communicating the tension and the strain and even the passion and the enthusiasm for the moment, instead of pressing, right, had that been extended, had that right arm been extended with the hair, you know, way up over here and then the dress to follow, that would have created a line that communicated that much more effectively. But just the push up, because you have two directions happening, right? You have her pushing up, so her primary body, her torso, is pushing up towards the camera, and then everything else is moving to left. There's a contrast there that isn't finding a solution for itself.
Yeah,
Right.
I see it as how Sharon describes it. It's more of a collapse. She's actually fell down and she's just hitting the ground. Her hair is still flowing, so she's not pushing up. She's actually
because the hair is already on the ground, even though it's.
Oh no, the
flowing
hair is up in the
it's
air.
low.
I see it as flying in the air, by the way, because her hands are far away from the ground, right? So her hair must be up.
No, her hands are on the ground.
This hand is on the ground.
No, her arms. Sorry, her arms, her elbows are up. As if she's doing push-ups. So the hair cannot be on the ground. That's what I'm trying to say.
I
She's-
think I don't think we have enough. Let me see if I can maybe maybe I
Can we do like a Matterport thing and just turn it around in 3D? We can just kind of do that.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
Nicole, where are your 3D skills? Come on,
I
show
know I
us.
should have had those. So it's difficult to tell. It looks like there's probably some hair that is blowing in the wind and some hair that is laying on the ground. Because I mean, if you look at we're using wind here. We've got these moving leaf shapes. So it's hard to tell how long the model's hair is, but there's definitely some spillage onto and toward the ground, and probably some moving as well.
I have the desire to throw myself on the ground and see how I land.
Doesn't it make you want to be in a gothic romance? That's what it feels like, right? Run off
It's
into the
true.
rain and throw myself onto the ground.
Do you have the room there, Becca? I mean, can you move your webcam?
Well, my hair is touching the ground.
There it
Becca
is.
out.
It's science.
Perfect.
The great thing about images like this, though, which very much to Bassam's point, is it's our read of it that's the most important part, right? Like, we don't have to come at any image like this and feel like our read of it is the one that everybody must get. Like, everything that's coming together in us as individuals is very much what it's kind of meant to be for us, which is that great relationship that we have with art. Barry's saying it feels like betrayal.
It's funny that Barry says that because I was maybe being a bit too cute. I'm looking at the strap of her dress and it's an X, and I say she's been crossed.
Ah,
I was just thinking that, and then he writes betrayal. So
yeah. And then it looks like a book cover. And I would agree. I think this is exactly the kind of image you might see on a book cover. So
Jay's work is always so great.
I absolutely love all of the emotion that is in this shot. No matter how you read it, it's definitely super emotive. All right, time to move on because we don't have all the time in the world, but thank you to Jay for sharing this image. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm sorry that we didn't get to look at it last month, but we get to see it now, and I'm so glad that we got to share it together. We're going to go ahead and move on to this shot. Let us see how big we can get it. It's relatively contrasty, so if we can't see it well, let me know, and I will play with the settings a little bit.
actually, Nicole, if you can make it a little brighter, because it is brighter when it was posted on. It's very dark here.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
you
what
can
I was
actually
thinking
add
as well.
add a curve or something. Yeah. Yeah, that's maybe a little less if I remember what it looked like. Yeah.
We're a little closer there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, friends in the audience. Yes, Jay, thank you. Thank you for letting us see your gorgeous image. We would love to hear from you what your intention was behind that. If you would share that, that would be amazing. And as you do, we're going to have a look at this image and start wondering how it makes us feel.
Excited and damned.
Ooh. Damned. That's a great. I definitely feel overwhelmed. Like I am in danger here.
Danger's the word, right?
No, damned is the word.
I'm not going to fight you.
Right? Like you're not just in danger. Like this woman is
Judgment has already been passed, huh?
judgment's been passed, but she's like sacrificing everything just to be seen here. Like, holy cow.
Yeah, this character is definitely burning the world down to watch it burn right now.
For sure. I want to know her.
I can't pick a word.
No word for you.
Too many words out there to pick from.
I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see some of the details also. It's a Facebook image, so unfortunately we don't get all of them, but
I love how the lightning bolt was caught in camera. It's amazing. I'm kidding. It looks amazing.
Sharon saying
That's the wine
power.
talking.
Oh, Barry saying vengeance, a vengeful woman. I think vengeance is could also be a really great word.
I'm gonna go a little off here, and it feels like birth.
Huh?
It's like the
Ooh,
beginning.
who said
I
Sharon?
can see.
Sharon
I
said
can see.
emergence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Emergence. Birth.
Not just emergence, like birth.
I can
I
kind
see
of
what
see
you're
where you're
seeing.
coming from there.
Yeah,
Picking up what you're putting down.
I dig it. Moss wine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
So
even have
now-
any that on.
Now that we have a few words to define how this image is making us feel, let's break out that visual literacy and try to put in words what the artist has done here that is helping us feel that way. So remember, friends in the audience, we want to hear from you, but we're looking at stuff like composition and color and expression and symbolism and costume and all of that stuff. So see if you can start figuring out what Lauren Shipman, who is the wonderful photographer and artist of this image, see if we can figure out what she did that's making us feel this way. Sharon saying the flow of the fabric really portrays how hot the environment is. It definitely does kind of feel like the wind coming from the fire is just picking up, or maybe that's her power as well. That's just really kind of, but all that movement
You know
is
what's
fantastic.
stunting this for me is the brick at the bottom. Right? Like I want that fabric all the way through and around to give me that full like breath, and it's almost like stopping right there at the whatever that cement stonework rah is. And I want all of it. Like I want her coming through.
So Kat, I have to agree with you because Nicole, I picked that picture because it did confuse me because of that brick wall. I'm trying to figure out, even scale wise, it doesn't fit. There's something about that brick wall that does not fit in the rest of the amazing image, and it takes away from it for me. Is it a well? Is it a wall? It looks like in from a scale perspective, it's just not the scale. So it really throws me off. Right?
And I'm looking at it from like the sense of just shooting it. And it might simply be that wall was there and like that was the center place. And then there are people like throwing the fabric around her. She's just sort of bent into it. But at the same time, like I want that to be all encompassing. So the only thing I'm focusing on is her face and the fire and that bolt behind her.
But if you look at that wall, if you look to the left of the image, there's a brick behind her, which looks like it's a round circle, which could be
like in a garrison.
well.
That's what I was thinking,
Or
like the top of a tower.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think for me, from a story, I'm pressing all the wrong damn buttons. From a story perspective, I actually really like the brick wall. And for me, it's because it looks like a parapet and it looks like she is burning a fucking castle to the ground and her dragons are probably in there somewhere about to come tear things down too. So for me, the wall actually adds a bit of storytelling, but I can totally see why, in your case, like wanting to focus on her and all of this beautiful movement, like why you would want to see it without that. But for me, I dig it because the embers that are coming up from above, this looks to me like she's just taken over a castle and she's burning shit to the ground.
Yeah, when I saw this for the first time, Nicole, and you'll love this, is that I thought Smaug, the dragon, right? It's immediately what I thought. There's this burning, there's this danger, there's these big wings and scales and fire and all that sort of stuff. It was very reminiscent of that. But I think that wall, like you said, kind of adds to it, that she's in the top of this tower and is just watching the world burn at her command. And yeah, I love this a lot.
The longer I look at it, the more I like it.
I don't know. I feel like I don't really have enough context clues in it to get a good feel for what's going on. Like the wall, I also get parapet on a castle from the wall. Definitely, that was how I read that. And I think maybe what's making it a little visually confusing for me is the direction and the flow of the fabric. I can't figure out like what, if it were natural, like wind, I feel like it would move differently instead of in multiple directions, and that's what's kind of giving me that birth feeling, is it almost feels like a disembodied head, like emerging from this.
That's the
fabric.
unbalance.
Yeah, but you also get her body line camera right too.
I can't tell if that's the body. Is it?
I'm not entirely sure. Let me zoom in a bit and let's see if we can. I can't tell if it is body or more fabric.
I can't either, because I did think it might be the body. But I mean, I'm kind of into the disembodied head thing a little bit. I just wish, I don't know, something with the fabric is off-putting for me.
You're right, and that's what's bugging me about it. And I just figured it out. The way the fabric is flowing, it can only be that way if she's actually falling in and you click the shutter as she's there.
No, I'm sitting here going, no.
I'm actually there with Matt. Like, I don't think that's the only way that could happen.
No, the thermals from the fire are lifting everything up.
But it's so
I don't know about that either.
I'm reading it as her power. It's a whoosh. If you've ever had your hair blown up in your face from things coming from behind you, yeah, like in my head, I think and there's something wing-like to the shape of them too. So That's at least for me. That's how I.
For me, it's like coming through. So I wish her hand were there in the center of the fabric, because the way her face is, and I'm like sitting here emulating like in the moment. But like how forward her face is coming through the fabric, that means her hand is there holding the fabric. It's coming up around her, which is what implies the body line there, camera right. Just as somebody who works with fabric on a regular basis.
Somebody who is an expert fabric throwing champion, capturer of beautiful flowing fabrics.
But like she's almost leaning in, right? So it's not just here's a woman's face, here's a brick thing, and by the way, there's some fabric here. Like she's leaning into it. The story of it is behind her and around her, and then the fabric is there to elicit the drama. Yeah. Who is this?
This is Lauren Shipman.
Nice job, Lauren.
Yes.
It is really cool. And I mean, like, as far as color palette and like even just the use of like the repetition of shape from the lightning into the flames in the crown and like the desaturated, sickly, like otherworldly looking face, like beautiful all around. But just something I would have done the fabric differently, and that may just be my personal taste.
And it was interesting for me too, because we can't stay on this one and we do have to move on, but it was interesting for me too, as like having a fantasy background, the way that I would read this image is very much baked into the visuals I see when I engage in that work. And so for folks who don't come from a background like that, I can see them having a completely legitimate and completely opposite read than mine. And that's what's so interesting to me about all of this exercise, is that you're relying very much upon the visual library that somebody has to pull from in their head. And that's really going to drive how they read something.
Totally.
You guys,
like Bassam and Sharon mentioned, it was a well, and I didn't see that at all. I immediately thought castle. So that's,
yeah, me too.
yeah, it's cool.
just as an aside, when we do our retreat, can we please like create some fabric adventure into that process?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let us have fabric adventures. It absolutely must happen. All right. We're going to move on to something very different here. Let me see. Becca chose this shot. I believe this is Xian's. Let me go like that. Yes, Sharon. More treats. Also, sometime we are going to run away together into the woods or into some place fabulous and spend like days just hanging out and making cool things together for the Artist Forge. So
I'm thinking a big lush green front lawn, Nicole.
oh boy, lawns. I'm going to go off on that one day. All right, let's have a look at this image. Get a feel for how it makes us feel. I feel like this is also reading a bit darker on my screen than it is on the Book of Faces. Are you guys seeing the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring it up a notch real quick. It's a relatively dark. Can we actually see the smoke and everything there from your perspective now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's have a look at this guy. We're going to have to move through the next ones a little quickly because we like to linger. Immediately.
Pressure and expectation of family. Oh, fuck.
Is it weird that I just keep thinking, je suis prête? I am ready. Like that's what keeps going through my head.
So there's an interesting thing in Asian culture, and now mine's coming purely from like the wealth of Japanese culture that I've experienced. But the expression on the face is like, okay, I'm here. right? But then like all of the garb and the tools and the helmet is like, okay, I'm ready to do this, right? But it's a really intimidating force. This is really pretty fantastic.
I love the androgyny of it. I don't know if this is a girl or a guy, and based on where I sit with that changes the emotion that I feel.
Oh, that's an
And-
interesting piece of self-reflection, huh?
Yeah. So I can't tell by the features on the face. I can't tell by body shape. And there's a lot that I don't want to say confuses me, but is conflicted in me as to how I interpret it because I don't know who's in the suit.
What is the conflict, Matt?
So there's, I mean, I guess conflict's a weird word, but I mean, if there's a young man in this outfit, I'm thinking, you know, he's prepping for war. He's prepping for that that immediate conflict that's about to happen. There's a preparation for that fight. If I see it as a young woman, it is being cast into a role she doesn't want to be in, or has to feel like she has to put on a costume or a mask to fit in. There's different things here that, based on how I look at it, and then thinking about cultural sides of it, just make me feel different. And I like being like having that question and going back and forth. I like not
Sure.
knowing. Yeah. But those
I
are
like
the
the
things.
challenge. I like the challenge. You know, looking at this, I was like, okay, so we're in like a Chinese affect, but looking at it from a space of a Japanese perspective, it's still a very like the smoke bringing in the challenge and almost the body positioning. It's not defensive. It's almost like, no, please don't pick me.
Like almost resignation or retreat.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a very slack body posture in it. Yeah.
It's interesting to think about how your read on something is different depending on what the perceived gender of the person is and the way that we relate to that culturally. It's a really interesting thing to think about, particularly when you're looking at images from different cultures where, you know, there are different expectations and different understandings of how gender is related to circumstance and things like that. And I think it's really interesting, you know, to see. So Barry is saying resignation. I think that's a great word in that circumstance. Sharon agreeing there. And for me, I mean, this is looks to be competition armor. And so there's very much a feeling of like, I think the hands folded the way that they are. I definitely have that sense of resignation, but it doesn't feel hesitant to me.
I want to
It
go
just-
make sake.
Yeah.
It just feels ready, not
Yeah.
eager, but ready.
Yeah, I use the word primed. You know, the fact that the person is leaning back, I don't see it as resignation, as I see it as a defensive position as opposed to an offensive position, right? So it's in a way, bring it on. I'm ready. I'm primed. I'm
I
up
see-
to it, right?
I see
but I'm on
doubt.
the defense. But I'm on the defensive. Like I'm the
Yeah.
defense here, not the offense.
Yeah, it's definitely not an offensive position.
I don't see
I-
defense or offense. I'm seeing someone standing there wearing all of the things with their hands at their sides, holding a tool. Like, okay, what now?
That's interesting because I see somebody in the lists. This looks to me like a person waiting for their turn. I know Siri had her hand up, and so Siri has got something to add to this conversation. What do you see, Siri?
I actually could see the smoke.
You could?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think it means that there's smoke in there?
Means it's like evil.
Oh,
Oh.
like evil. Because like smoke and fire and stuff?
I actually don't know.
Oh, the danger.
The danger.
The danger.
This actually reminds me of in basic training, you would get exercised so hard that while you're standing there with all of these other people, the heat and steam from your body is rising up into the air. It literally looks like everybody's burning away. This reminds me of that. Like
That's what
somebody who
sake
just,
making looks like sometimes. Too.
yeah, you just, woof, all of it.
It's all the steam. It's all the rice. That's all that's happening. It's just all of the
That's
rice
it.
is being steamed right now.
That's what's happening.
Yeah. We're going to put the koji on it soon. It'll be fine.
Cat's prepared. Okay, I wish we could stay here longer. I know we're not going to have time to get through everything. This is a wonderful shot. And I believe that Xian had mentioned some of the circumstances around this. Hopefully we'll be able to get a little bit more information so we have some context. But I love how much this one made us think and also reflect a little bit on why we would come to certain conclusions, especially looking at things culturally and from a gender perspective. I think that's super duper interesting. So we have seen these ones and we have seen this lovely shot. Oh, okay. I thought the symbolism was so interesting in this one, this gorgeous image by Sisela, of Sisela. So I felt like we needed to at least look at this one and get a good read on it. So if you're in the comments today, let us know how this image makes you feel. Siri already has feelings. Can you wait just a minute, Siri, and then I'll call on you?
Actually, can we start with Siri?
Yeah. Siri, you want to tell us what you think first?
There's like little chains on her.
There is little chains on her. You were right.
I'll go first.
Go.
Yeah.
This gives me ambition.
Mm. I see that.
It was in the same gambit there for sure. Like the intensity in her eyes is like, get to fucking work, y'all. Yeah.
The fact
I see.
that
Go ahead, Nicole. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, the use of red here in this is really super powerful for me because she's controlled it so carefully. There's very much a sense of having eaten the forbidden fruit and having gained the power that comes along with it, right? So like she's got this pomegranate broken in her hands. There's red, and it's really pronounced on the inside of her lips. So there's this feeling that she has tasted the seeds of power, right? And there's red around her eyes. So it very much feels to me like all of the men who ever held her down had better watch out because she has tasted of the fruit of power and now she is about to go lay waste.
Get it, Sisela. Yes, girl.
Yeah. The word that popped to mind was conquest.
Yeah.
And just like I own it all right now. And this entire series, if you've seen it, is phenomenal. But yeah, this image in particular is incredibly powerful. And I think you nailed it, Nicole, with the subtle use of red rather than it being so overt, actually makes it much more attractive.
And really for me, Kate Woodman says hush now.
Yeah.
I love the intensity in her eyes. The only thing I want is instead of the hands being here, I want them here. I want to see more of that fruit and I want it crushed.
Mm.
What?
It could definitely be really interesting to see some of the juices coming out of her mouth, even like that. Dang it. Sorry, guys. My computer's trying to tell me that conversations are happening. But yeah, and obviously like the symbolism, the chainmail there being knightly, right? Like that's the thing you wear if you're a warrior, and the expression on her face. I mean, she's just staring down the camera, the open mouth. Also, there's something really sensual about this image to me. me as well, which I think there's also additional power in that. Sharon
Mhm.
asking who this is. This is Sissela Johansson. And she's saying, the word that comes to me right away is offering. That's really interesting. Maybe because of the body language of the hands.
That is interesting because I definitely see it as taking as opposed to giving.
Especially
Just want
because
crush.
the fruit's broken in half, right? Like this was
Yep.
not sliced or neatly done. This was pulled apart.
Mm-hmm.
See, I think that's just it. Like the way how settled her hands are is because it was cut, and now she's holding and presenting instead of ripping it the hell apart. Like, and yeah, that's what's
interesting.
missing for me.
That's interesting because when I think when I look at it and I see the kind of jagged edges and everything, I feel like it's I mean, but her hands are obviously much more gentle. So it's interesting. There's some tension there between how to read that one.
What do you want? Say your piece, child.
It looks like she's actually wearing lipstick, and I think she's opening a fruit.
I think you're right. I think
It's
you're
true.
correct there. Bassam, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm all over the place. Fruit in general signifies abundance, and I'm trying to see, is there any way abundance can fit into this picture? Because it's more what you're describing. There's an aspect of sanctity and holiness. I don't know why.
Because Sissela has such a her features are so very much Renaissance. Like you just go straight there. But I think your instincts are correct, Bassam.
So
Yeah,
Bassam,
is that
just so we know, the pomegranate is a symbol of life and fertility, also of power, blood, and death.
Oh, so it's geez, okay, yeah. And then I look at that, and it looks, is it a veil or is it a body armor, or not a body or a head armor? Like, is it a veil?
Chainmail.
It's chainmail.
Chainmail.
Yeah. No, I'm not asking what it is. I'm just saying.
It goes over the head.
Oh
I see
yeah,
it-
it's a
I-
cowl.
I see it as a way in a veil.
So like warrior priestess kind of.
Yeah. A godliness.
It makes me want to go do some self-portraits. I will say that.
me.
My son, I have been in a full top of chainmail. It's not easy to get that off. I'm just gonna say.
Not with my hair, no.
No, they'll be braided and tucked and carefully taken care of there. Yes. So we can't stay here either. This is conversations. Beautiful image by Sissela. Absolutely striking. So much symbolism here. Super duper powerful.
Oh.
Ooh.
This is the last one we're going to look at because this is so interestingly done and done so very differently from many other of the images. And so I wanted to give us a chance to have a look at this one before we close. I'm also going to adjust this a bit and bring back some detail here. How are we seeing that? Is it
A little
overexposed?
too far.
A little too far? How is that?
That's
Something
good.
to say.
Okay.
Something to say.
What do you have to say, Siri?
He's like have a belt right here.
I don't think it's a belt. What is it? I can't quite see.
I think he loved the Deftones.
Are we looking here?
Oh,
Yes.
it's
This is a Deftones album. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a belt. You're right, Siri, but it's actually either a magazine or an album.
It is an album cover.
Things before her time.
Deftones.
Or were they? No.
So Barry's initial feelings: mysterious bald dude, a trickster. Interesting. Olga saying distortion of perspective here, feels confrontational.
Oh, I love all of those. I do love, because I love that album, and I love the context with the light bulb behind him. Just a very frank, like it's making me think, but also there's like a very dark energy, which is pretty obvious with the Deftones.
Mhm.
I think it's an interesting family of imagery here.
Yeah. Olga saying very 90s
90s aesthetic. Come on, Olga.
It is. It totally is.
That's no.
Yeah, but how many videos on MTV in the 90s had the like crazy wide angle fisheye look? Like it feels good.
Nice application of Rembrandt lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that there is not a whole lot of fill light going on. So we really get the mystery. So like this, you know what this makes me feel like? He has just got some shit from these albums and he's looking at you like, are you in the know? Because I'm in the know. I know some shit.
Are you
Maybe
in?
you don't know. maybe
I want
you and I
to
need
take
to
it a
have a
little Beastie
conversation.
Boys farther and like come straight in with some hands. Like
Go full on. Yeah, I mean, I think with the light in the background, like you were mentioning, Kat, it's almost like it's always symbolizes knowledge to me, right? Like you know something with that light, and then it's cool too because we see his shadow on the wall. We have this really broken kind of angles happening from the shadows here. The only blue that's in the image is the logo from the Deftones, and then using that wide angle lens really gives it a feeling of immediacy. So he is coming at the person who is seeing this image, which I think is really fantastic. Plus all of the mystery that is going on with the shadows on his face, and we've got fantastic chiaroscuro here. So we have light to dark to light to dark to light to dark. So we have these really great patterns also happening. So I just find this to be a super, super fantastic image to look at.
Yeah, Michael's definitely kind of one to watch, right? He's come out of the gate with a lot of his work and he's doing phenomenal things. And I think I saw this in the group where he deconstructed not only the reasoning behind it, but how he did it. So I'm a little bit biased knowing how he explained everything. But I'm a sucker for wide angle. Give me 12 millimeters or less, like just widen this weird thing
Fish
out.
it out, just fish
it out. And I'm a huge sucker for that. And I love the use of this where he distorts just enough, but it's not so that his head and face are so completely distorted that you're like, oh, you didn't know what you were doing. He uses the lens really, really well to give you that feeling of leaning in, like you said, a little bit of secrecy, a little bit of you don't know what I know, right? And I'm checking you out to see if you're cool enough to listen to this Deftones record, right? And so I love not only that, but he mimics the album cover itself in terms of the lighting. So if you go down and you're looking at that album cover, he's mimicking the light that's on the cover.
And it's wide angle as well, right?
It's wide angle.
It's gorgeous use of it. Really, really is.
If you look straight through, it's even the angle too. So it's just like
super smart,
right? And also, there's an aspect of possessiveness in it. I can't really tell if that's his arm or if that's part of the album cover, but it's almost like he's got his arms crossed and saying
he does. Yeah,
he does. So there's a bit of possessiveness there. So like, don't touch this is mine. You're not gonna get access.
And now, can we go through the context of the album and the songs and the poetry that is released within those songs, so that we could that's really where I want to head to with this image. It's like everything that's released in the songs from this, it's one of my favorite albums of all time. So like having that layer is just like, shut up, get out of here, Michael. I love you, Michael. You're amazing.
Yeah, he's great. Great.
Yeah, super, super smart. And I love the fact that this is an example of the fact that I'm sorry, Bassam, I did not mean to cut you off.
No, keep going.
I love the fact that this is an example of one of those times where a powerful image does not have to be pretty, right? It's well done and it's very smart and it's still visually interesting, but you're not like, we don't need that. We just need it to be powerful and confrontational. And I love that about this shot.
I was just going to ask a question. Does the light above his head bother you, or do you think it helps the image? Like, I don't know if it's intentional or not. And I can't decide whether it's distracting or whether it's actually part of the.
Given the album, I would say it adds.
I would say the same thing, Bassam. I think if he cropped that little bright part out, but you still saw the stem, that it would, yeah, like right there, right? You're still seeing that there's a light there, but you're not distracted by that bright spot. That to me would make it damn near perfect.
I gotta go, guys. I gotta go. I gotta go listen to Deftones.
It's a good thing we're just about done then, so we can release you to go listen to Deftones. Yeah. Any thoughts on this one, Becca?
Many. I think what really strikes me about this in particular is that it's just like so casually cool. Like, I feel like this is the kind of picture that you like put as your profile picture and it becomes your profile picture for 15 years, you know? Like,
if there was still MySpace, this would be your picture.
right, even
for sure.
Instagram or whatever. Like, it's not trying too hard. It's not, like you said, overtly pretty. It's just cool.
It's full of personality and intelligence. That's what
totally.
I really like about it. Yeah.
Hang on, I put on around the floor. Hang on, I'll be right back.
And the thing is, if you know Michael, who's an incredible human being, he's just the nicest, quietest, calmest person. And to see this side of him, there's such a just a conflict really between like who the person is, and then there's this other side. And I love that. I love that about knowing the artist and knowing, you know, the image itself. So yeah.
Okay, are you guys ready for this?
Oh, ready to go.
DJ
We're gonna
Cat.
bring some sounds. We're gonna bring some sound to this image.
Here we go.
And YouTube bans us for copyright infringement.
Right? I don't know if we're going to get the full effect of it over the speakers because it wants to echo back on itself. But Kat, tell people what this album is so they can go snag it up, so they can go check it out.
It's just the best.
What's the name of this
Just the
album?
best. Around the Fur.
Around the Fur. All right, folks.
Around the Fur.
Now you have to go listen to it and see how it fits this image. Okay. Unfortunately, we have no more time tonight. Final honorable mention. I wish we could have had time, but this absolutely stinking stunning portrait where red is used to frame this incredibly stunning goddess of a human. So beautiful and good.
Is
We
that
just
Sisela
didn't have
too?
time. Sisela
Is that
as well.
Sisela as well?
Yep.
Wow.
Absolutely stunning. So gorgeous. Yay, Sisela's here. I hope you
Gorgeous.
were here, Sisela. We got to look at your other image. It was so wonderful. And you're going to have to tell us what you think about it. So your job now is to go back and watch and tell us if we got anywhere near where you wanted to go. But we have reached the end of the live for today. Any final thoughts, y'all, on the topics of conversation or the beautiful images that we saw today?
I'm excited for this month's love. Like, what a great lead-in. Holy crap.
And we've already seen, like, from the images that have been shared already, I love that. So people have been approaching it from so many different perspectives, even from personal love to like the things that I love and the little pieces of the things that I love so far. It's been super great to see. So I hope friends are out there making amazing things.
We need to hype it up. We need more pictures. It's the middle of the month already, guys.
I know.
And speaking of red and love, Apothic wine has treated me well this evening. So thank you, Apothic, for sponsoring the Artist Forge
You just
on wine.
did the motion. Why'd you do that?
He really, really loves it, Nicole. Don't judge.
You really loves it.
For what it's worth.
All right, friends.
I'll say it
Go
later.
out, make images with love as the theme, however you see it, however you interpret it, and in whatever medium. If you're going to throw a pot and that is love as the theme, if you're going to go sculpt something, photograph it and show it to us. If you're going to make a photograph or a painting, bring it. We want to see your beautiful works of art. That is the theme this month. And excitingly, we are going to go through people who are in the Facebook group will react to the images they feel the most drawn to, and the images that have the most reactions, likes, or loves are going to get chosen. The 5 images are going to get chosen for the next live, which is on the 4th Thursday of the month. We will take those, we'll visual literacy the hell out of them like we just did with the images that we just saw. And the image that we feel is the most impactful will then become the head image on the group, the banner image of the group. You will get an interview with, the lovely Matt Stagliano is going to interview you for the Artist Forge podcast. You will get a interview and blog post up on theartistforge.com. We're just going to celebrate the hell out of you and tell everybody where they can find your work. So go make something amazing. Share it in the pinned post and Facebook. Make sure you use the hashtag TAF April Challenge, and we will like it and love it and share it and do all the things. So go make cool stuff. All right. We will be together, of course, tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. That's 6 a.m. for the West Coast and 9 a.m. for the East Coast. Afternoon for our friends overseas. Come join us then, where we will continue these interesting topics of conversation. And always go check out theartistforge.com, where podcasts and blog posts are going up regularly with fantastic information that will help you learn to think like an artist. Until tomorrow morning, have a great one. Go make something amazing. We'll see everybody then. Bye, friends.
Bye, guys.